there is some breaking news coming out of Michigan today. It's very interesting. Not a peep, right? You knew that Jim Harbaugh and Michigan were working on a contract extension. Well, now we've heard from sources close to the situation that there is some frustration on Michigan's side that Jim Harbaugh was not willing to drop his fixation with the NFL. And I think that very clearly from what, we've heard and seen in reports last week that we talked about on the show, where Michigan offered Jim Harbaugh a 5-year, $11 million contract extension, even amongst all of these investigations and NCAA violations with Michigan football. The University of Michigan is willing to stand behind Jim Harbaugh with their pocketbook. And I am told there is some frustration and disappointment even that Jim Harbaugh will not relinquish his desire to go to the NFL. And Michigan has asked that he, at least for half of the contract, depending on who you believe, have a clause that says he will not pursue NFL jobs. Jim Harbaugh has balked at that. In fact, to the point where he has turned down the richest contract in the history of the Big Ten. Jake, are you surprised that Michigan is running out of patience on Jim Harbaugh?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, if I'm Michigan, and I have, what I would say is kind of a silly mentality with this, meaning I'm desperate to sign Jim to this unreal contract that's $11 million a year, just short of Nick Saban and his Ferrari money. I'm trying to sign this guy to that type of money. And then when he doesn't want to sign that deal, I'm getting frustrated. So I'm not surprised that Michigan's frustrated. But what I am surprised with is the affinity, the just outright commitment to sign this guy, not only to a contract, but to one of the richest contracts we've ever seen in college football for a head coach. And I'm trying to understand the strategy here. And I would love for a Michigan fan to explain this to me. So you're trying to sign a guy to the second richest college football coach deal in history because he did what exactly? Because you're in the college football playoff, and obviously if he goes and wins a natty, he's got that I told you so on the resume, which I think is really important for Jim. But Jim is clearly showing a bunch of behavior that says he's not committed to you, and certainly not committed to the game of college football. He's more interested in running from his problems, as he always has and always will. And so that's why I say I'm not surprised Michigan's frustrated, but I am very much surprised that they continue to pursue this guy to no end. It would be different if this was, a guy that had run a really tight ship, a seamless operation, an above board operation that won all the time. I don't know, like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, and at one point Dabo Swinney, but he's not that guy. And so I'm trying to understand why, what's the affinity with Jim? Is it that he went to Michigan? Is it that you just simply like him? I don't know what that is. And it almost pushes me to a point where I'm like, hey, is this just a simple example of personal opinion on who you think Jim Harbaugh is? They just simply think Jim is a great football coach. I mean, that must be why you have such an affinity. Well,
where do you come down on that? Because I think when you look at Jim Harbaugh, there's no doubt that by wins and losses, he's been wildly successful at Michigan. Sign Steeler guy, all that other stuff, this scandal, the COVID dark period recruiting stuff, whatever this Matt Weiss FBI investigation is, again, sign Steeler guy, whatever you want to point to.
Sign Steeler guy.
Jim Harbaugh has won games. Whether he's coached them or not is a different story.
Right.
But do you view him as somebody that's been successful at Michigan?
By record and on paper, yes. But if you're Michigan and you're the people deciding on, whether to extend this guy, whether to, part ways with this guy, which clearly they don't want to do. Are you really just sitting there saying that, he's got more wins than he's got losses and he got the job done from that standpoint? Because I'm not. I mean, college football is hardly just about, what you do on the field as a head coach. College football is incredibly powerful. I mean, everything from, filling up the stadium, like Deion Sanders, releasing the number that, the football season, his first year in Boulder, the football program made the local economy $113 million extra dollars this year. So college football is hardly just like, hey, did you go out and win the game this time? Get them next time, Skippy. That's not what it's about. that's only one part of it. So I personally would not be just like, oh yeah, the guy's got X amount of wins, X amount of losses, and he's got more wins and more losses. Like, that's why I'm so surprised. You're Michigan, dude.
But there has to be something of substance there. I mean, you do not go through what Michigan, and again, I'll just say it. I think one of the most ethical pillars of education. I mean, it's a great educational institution.
Mm-hmm.
They are beyond reproach. But to throw out apparently all of your ethics and all of your codes for Jim Harbaugh, who is just the appearance of impropriety should be just beyond acceptance at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you look at Michigan's legal department is one of the best in the country. And you have a guy who in multiple years, consecutive years, even if you believe all the reports out there, has skirted NCAA rules, has played fast and loose with ethics, has, I mean, we're talking about having staff members committing alleged computer crimes that are being investigated by the FBI. That alone should be like, well, we don't like the character of the people you hire. Then you turn on top of that where he self-admitted these COVID era violations.
The coronavirus.
Then you have on top of that this sign stealing operation. Like, I mean, how is Connor Stalions? And again, Michigan fan, I'm not trying to be inflammatory, but he's either a rogue agent, which means Jim Harbaugh doesn't have control of his staff, or Jim Harbaugh knew exactly what Connor Stalions was doing, which means Jim Harbaugh lacks ethics and integrity and can't be the football coach at Michigan.
Or Michigan is okay with everything that Jim Harbaugh's done and doesn't give a damn.
Which I cannot believe.
Which would be incredibly surprising. And I agree, it's hard to believe.
I just
their
couldn't.
Behavior that they are trying, because again, I can't emphasize this enough. If you were just trying to sign, like, renew Jim at like $9 million a year, $7 million a year, like just a median number that's right in the middle of the market. Okay, fine. You just like Jim. You're just trying to renew the guy. All right, he's been successful. Fine, great. But that's not what you're doing here, man.
Not
you're
at all.
trying to sign this guy to a damn near record deal for a college football head coach. So that's where I'm coming from when I say, hey, you guys are I mean, obsessed is probably strong, but you have a very, very strong motivation to lock this guy up in your program for the next probably 5 years and make it so it's ironclad for 2 as far as the NFL is concerned.
But isn't this why we have sat here now for the better part of 6 weeks and talked about the fact they're not going to fire him, but he's going to quit? Jim Harbaugh, because I think the other thing a lot of Michigan fans forget is the NCAA hasn't even gotten started.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA, I think, is just building a bigger hammer for Michigan.
Cold-blooded, clean.
I mean, that's all this is, and Jim Harbaugh is going to be their nail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is going to take a 6 to potentially entire season worth of suspension next year. I think the recruiting violations, the restrictions, the loss of scholarship, the loss of practice time in the offseason, like, they are going to, in my opinion, do heavy, heavy damage to the Michigan football program if Jim Harbaugh continues to be the head coach.
And you still want to make a statement by signing this guy
to a historic contract. It doesn't add up. That I'll just keep saying that. It does not add up. I don't think President Ono is by any means a foolish man. He seems like a wildly intelligent human being. This does not add up to me. And I think, obviously, again, we're hearing that there is frustration and disappointment amongst the Michigan leadership, administration, if you will, that Jim Harbaugh has not signed this deal, that Jim Harbaugh will not abide by their wishes, that he not pursue NFL jobs the next 2 years. And if I'm Michigan, is that not a massive red flag?
Well, I think that sort of thought process speaks to where Michigan's at. Like, okay, so if the first thing that Michigan is publicly, or not publicly, but in terms of the information that's out there, frustrated allegedly that he won't sign the deal because of 2 years of NFL, hey, you can't go to the league for 2 years. Okay, if that's the first thing you're frustrated with, then we got a bigger problem here. And I agree. These people are not sitting here saying, well, sign stealer guy did his thing. That's a huge problem. We should have fired him for that. Oh, well, we're fine with that. Well, hey, what about the FBI? Oh, that's fine. That's nothing.
That's my point. Like, if you're sitting around,
what are you doing?
If you're sitting around an administrative meeting in Ann Arbor, and you're like, well, he's got this COVID thing where, they watch workouts over Zoom.
Yeah, but he was just trying to watch this one kid. It ain't no big deal.
But he also met with kids in public and kind of didn't even try to hide it. He met with recruits at at our favorite burger spot.
Who does that?
And then, there's this whole thing with the Committee on Infractions where he was, not cooperative and not forthcoming. And, now they're talking about dropping a much more significant suspension on him.
Even though we fought tooth and nail with our legal team, like unreal, man.
Yeah. But then, President Ono, what do you say about, this Matt Weiss thing's a bad look for us as an institution. The FBI
Matt is operating on his own. Jim never knew.
But the FBI's here. I guess, but then this Connor Stallions thing, and I didn't even get a free vacuum out of it. and now, like, we look like we were cheating to win games. Do you think the only reason we beat Ohio State 3 years in a row is because of what Coach Kakis did? Like, is that how the conversation goes?
That's what I'm saying.
Where you just keep writing stuff off?
Dude, you must just be choosing. Like, those folks in that conversation must simply be sitting here saying, our philosophy is, and again, I'm just saying this based off what we've seen here and the fact that they're trying to sign this guy to a record deal. Hey, what we've seen here is that Jim's done everything that he can possibly do, including pushing the envelope from a legal standpoint to win ball games. We're good with that. Here at Michigan, we know that the football program is going to pay for everything.
Yeah.
And obviously we want to make money in other sports, but football is first, not fifth, Bronco. And so Jim's got a free pass.
But
Jim's got the longest leash.
I think the other thing people have to understand is this is the University of Michigan.
But apparently not anymore. Apparently not. It used to be.
But you can have any coach you want.
Wow.
I mean, if you let go of Jim Harbaugh or he lets go of you can have any coach in the country, I would venture a guess, save probably Nick Saban and Kirby Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big time guys.
But you could take a run at Dabo. You tell me you couldn't go and call Dabo?
You could take a run at anyone. I mean, you could take a run at Sark.
You tell me you're not calling Ryan Day.
No, never. No, never. But dude, you could take a run at Steve Sarkisian. You could take a run at Dan Lanning. You could take a run at Kalen DeBoer. You could take a run at, you name it. You could take a run at him. Absolutely. The best football coaches in the country would want this job. Absolutely. You would want this job. They don't
operate that way. That's my biggest thing here. If you're a Michigan fan, my biggest takeaway that I would have you take is that this is hardly about extending Jim Harbaugh.
Yes.
You've got a bigger problem here. And that is that the brass at your school seemingly is choosing to ignore, because there is no just simply, there was no way they never knew about any of this stuff. They obviously are in the loop. So you're choosing to ignore it.
And let's not forget, when the temporary restraining order, the injunction was coming up, the NCAA dropped a new pile of evidence against you in the sign stealing case, and you folded like a house of cards.
This is a code 10 abort.
Yeah, so it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, let's see. The first comment I see is Ferris Khan. Every team has a sign stealer guy. It's legal.
It's not. Dude.
No, every team doesn't have a sign stealer guy who travels staff and has a budget and a cloud account and
is using cameras to steal signs, which is outlawed in the Big Ten rules.
You cannot. This is what I'm talking about with Michigan fan. You're not getting screwed. Who are you, Patrick Mahomes? The rules don't apply to you.
Who are you, Florida State?
You're not getting screwed. Jim Harbaugh did, in my opinion, what you can't do. One of two things: lose complete control of your coaching staff. Okay, let's play the 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy didn't know. Okay, well, then he lost complete control of his coaching staff. He has to be fired. Oh, man, Jim oversaw the entire thing. It was his idea. Okay, well, that's against the rules. Jim's got to be fired. I mean, listen, sign stealing is not illegal if you are on the field trying to steal the other team that you are playing that day. Mid-game, you want to steal their signs, knock yourself out. When you have a staff member, let's say, who's got a staff and buys tickets and uses Venmo and has a budget and hands out sign stealing cards on the sideline, that's not legal.
It's illegal, bro.
There's no way to spin this photo right here of Jim Harbaugh, his assistants, including Sharon Moore, with a sign stealing card. There's no way to spin that.
But we're going to get, Sharon Moore is a hero and a Michigan legend forever. And Connor Stallions is the operative we needed, but not the one we deserve.
Come on now.
Get the hell out of here, dude. Come on now.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. All right, the Monty Show, as always, our comment section presented by BuckedUp, BuckedUp.com, the best energy provider in the business, bar none. I was joking over the weekend, driving home from Copper Rock in St. George, technically Hurricane, in southern Utah, Copper Rock Golf Course. I was like, it's a long drive. Actually, it's not. It's only 3 hours. And when you pop a buckshot in the morning to get you all the way home, it goes by rather quickly. Was not drowsy, was not tired. Great drive. And I attribute it to Bucked Up. And I'll tell you again, 200 milligrams of naturally sourced caffeine. And a lot of people saying to me, well, what's naturally sourced caffeine, fan ass? Well, here it is right here in front of you. Okay, that's green tea leaf extract, 200 milligrams. And you look at the other stuff, whether it is tryptophan, which is brain food, riboflavin, B12, magnesium, all essential vitamins, especially when you need energy, all of that right here in a buckshot. Yes, sir. This is watermelon. I'm also a huge fan of blue ras. Oh, you want to try it for free? No problem. Get in the description below. There is a link to hook up the free sample pack. You get 6 free buckshots sent right to your front door. Hook it up right now. And a certain somebody finally got their ass back in the gym today.
Bitch.
What'd you do at the gym today, Jake?
Yeah, I did chest. As all gym goers know, you do chest in your first workout back. It's an obligation. No, I did chest. It was great. And I tried for the first time, which is truly incredible, tried racked BCAAs.
I like it.
And pre-workout.
And Bucked Up's pre-workouts are the best in the business, you guys.
I just have to say, so you know how when you take pre-workout, it like makes your face tingle and everything, and you're like, well, some people don't like that, and sometimes, it's a little too much. Dude, I took that Bucked Up pre-workout. I was awake, no face tingle, and no crash. Super smooth.
But it does make you burn more calories. Today, Mrs. Monty and I went to the gym. We hit a big shoulder workout because our gym is crawling with hyenas that are all over bench on Monday. So we did shoulders today. Dude, pop that buckshot pre-workout or that Bucked Up pre-workout. You're going to burn. I generally burn 100 to 200 more calories just from having the pre-workout. Makes that much difference. Code Monty, 20% off at checkout.
Okay, now can we, real quick before we get into the comments, let's make them good comments today. Like, can we start the week off strong? I mean, I know that first one was a Michigan fan, but like, generally speaking, can we have like can we be like 7 to 10 from the field here from the comments section? Can we
7 of 10 from the field?
Can we have, like, you're never going to be me, 18 out of 18 with fairways hit, of course, but let's be, 15 to 18 here. Come on.
You probably need more sleep. You sound all right. First up in the comments section today, Matt Ritson for $5. Hey, Monty.
Hey, Monty.
Staying truck stop hotel in Portland. Watch your show on iPad. Fly home tonight. Let's go. Travel safe, Matt. Good to see you. Ryan Willie, in my opinion, Harbaugh knows he's guilty. The NCAA will bring the hammer down. There's a lot of people in that opinion.
Well, but at least you understand it from Harbaugh's perspective. Hey, I did this. The NCAA is coming for me. Let's go to the league. Okay, fine. I don't like it, but that's reasonable.
Yep. Brian Laguerre for $2. This is like Deflategate. In the end, no one cares. Oh, I totally disagree. See, I think the Patriots on some level were likable.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
You want Tom Brady to reproduce with your daughter. So Deflategate, you could overlook that. I think the majority of Americans don't like Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jim Harbaugh is a red ass. And I think Jim Harbaugh is a guy that, frankly, not many people like. I think he's a very unlikable character.
That'd be America's team.
And I think when you're the head coach at Michigan and you're unable to beat Ohio State, so you do what needs to be done and you wind up beating them 3 straight years, a lot of people are unhappy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is, you probably had a better football team.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Michigan fan, I'll just tell you, Ryan Day is no different than Lloyd Carr. Vanilla ice cream, and he's going to melt on most Saturdays.
Well,
right?
how quick was Kyle McCord in the portal when the season ended, dude?
Right?
Like,
I mean, Ryan Day is not special or unique. The problem is we don't know if Jim Harbaugh is.
mm-hmm.
That's the real issue. But I do think people care. I completely disagree with that.
Yeah, I think the whole nobody cares thing is just like an auto answer for you don't want to talk about this,
Yep.
which is fine.
Scott's of Graywater Watch. When did this become the Michigan-Ohio State show? That's funny. A week ago, it was, you guys are an Alabama apologist show. When did this become the truck stop conference cheering section show?
Hey, Scott of Blackwater. What do you want us to talk about, dude? Like,
this show is not the Michigan show or the Big 12. It's the biggest stories in sports. That's what you get when you come to the Monty Show. You know that you are going to get opinions on the biggest stories in sports. And the fact that Jim Harbaugh has not signed a contract extension, and by a lot of reports and what we're hearing is that Jim Harbaugh will not remove the NFL clause from that contract. Or that Michigan will not and Jim will not sign it.
Stay hard.
And I think there is disappointment amongst Michigan administration that he still looks to the NFL again and again and again. Every summer, there's concern Jim Harbaugh is going to the NFL.
I just don't understand why you're surprised anymore. Like, fool me once, fool me 80 times type thing, dude. Like, this is what dude does. Like, it's who Jim is.
Yeah. Ferris Khan again. Why shouldn't Harbaugh be allowed to go to the NFL if he wants? Hasn't he earned it? No, the problem is, my opinion is that Jim wants the NFL because it's a parachute out of what I think is going to be, if Jim Harbaugh remains the head coach at Michigan, I think the next 5 years are going to be very, very fruitless. I think he is going to get significant penalties. The NCAA has already said the COVID period penalties are going to be stiff. 5 games was not enough. It's going to be stiff. You are going to face scholarship write-downs, recruiting ability write-downs. You are not going to be able to recruit off campus as much as you had been. I think they are going to limit official visits on campus to him. I mean, this is going to be a significant penalty just for the COVID period violations. Then you look at this situation with Sign Stealer guy. The NCAA has a mountain of evidence that all of his opponents from coast to coast have provided them. Video evidence, written evidence, computer evidence. I mean, I don't even know where this begins.
I'm for real.
The NCAA has so much evidence. They shared it with the Big Ten and shared it with Michigan, and Michigan immediately stopped their legal proceedings to protect Jim Harbaugh from his 3 hour or 3 hour, 3 times 3, 9 hour. I don't do math, but his 9 hour suspension.
Right.
You're crazy if you think that this is going to be.
And by the way, let's not treat this like Jim has earned some NFL spot. You understand he was in the league before.
Yeah.
You left the NFL for the college game, and now you want to go back to the NFL, not because you want to go to the NFL. You want to go to the NFL because you don't want to deal with the problems you've caused. And if you're Michigan, maybe that's why you're disappointed. Maybe it's a thing where you thought that Jim would come to the middle and say, hey, you know what? Publicly, like forward facing, I'm not going to be accountable for the mess that I've created here. But within the Michigan circle, within the private, conversations we have between Jim and the brass, we were expecting Jim to come to the middle and say, yep, I'll sign that deal. And I commit to you, I won't go to the league for 2 years. So then I can take responsibility privately for what the NCAA has coming. Because that's the only thing I could think of as to why they'd be disappointed.
William Bailey. What's up, William? I'm sure there are also other clauses in that deal regarding what happens when the NCAA hands down punishment. Isn't dumb enough to put themselves in that situation. No, my guess is the clauses are in Harbaugh's favor. Hey, if I stay and we get NCAA sanctions, I get my full salary. Hey, he's not going to sign a deal that gives him a pay cut if there are NCAA sanctions. That's not going to happen. No, there's no chance. Cougar Tracks, by any means necessary, the end justifies the means. I don't believe that it does. I truly don't believe that it does. OG Gary, another Jim story. Let me guess, slow news day. Not at all. Not at all. I think one of the biggest stories today in college football is that Taj Brooks is back at Tech. I think that's a huge story. It's not a slow news day at all.
Dude, how are you not coming into the comment section? Your first comment is about your boy winning the Heisman.
Which is crazy to me.
How are you not talking a load of junk about how your boy lost 3 games and still won the Heisman because of the numbers? Come on, dude.
Yeah, we'll see. Tanner Plummer says, "Oh, nice shot at Bronco, Jake."
Yeah, you like that?
I'm just happy that Bronco's back at New Mexico, frankly. Mike Smith, Sharon Moore had Connor right behind him telling him to play. Moore's just a cheater. There's a lot of people who feel that way. And there's a lot of people who believe when Jim leaves, his entire staff will be asked to leave with him. Because they're not going to – I don't believe they'll hire internally. I really don't. Because it opens them to exposure with the NCAA. Because we don't know the evidence the NCAA has. That's the other thing you got to remember. We haven't even begun that process. That'll be interesting. Tanner Plummer, Michigan could have gone a good shot at any NFL assistant coach. There's options, obviously, a ton of them.
But they clearly aren't on that page, man. That's what I'm saying. That's what's so surprising.
Maybe the enemy you know is better than the one you don't.
Maybe. Yeah.
To me, anyway. It was not legal. That is why Michigan cut his ass real fast. He got caught. If it was legal, they would have kept him. Connor Stallions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Gary Wolf, don't fret, Tech fans. Ain't going after Joey anytime soon. Wow.
Damn.
That's a shot.
Damn.
I think that Taj Brooks going back to Texas Tech, I think was absolutely mandatory for Joey McGuire. Because I think Taj Brooks could be the best running back in the Big 12. And now we're going to have to find out. Who knows what Ali Oxenfree is going to be, and who knows what his situation will be. But I think Taj Brooks coming back to Tech is a huge story.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. And some of the coaching hires, if you look at the assistants changing hands, or if you look at the portal, and again, I don't know how many of you look at the transfer portal. You're crazy if you're not in the 247 transfer portal and you start seeing, hey, some of these cats are signing deals. And some of these guys which, hey, you know what? And maybe I guess I should not be surprised. But I look at, is Taylon Green really a guy, the transfer quarterback from Boise? Is Taylon Green really a guy where you're like, oh, man, I got to have that guy who can't throw the football? Right? He committed. Did you guys see that Taylon Green committed to Arkansas? You're going to replace Jefferson with Taylon Green. That's crazy to me. I cannot. And I understand. Look, Cat threw for 3,700 yards and 25 touchdowns, but let's be honest. Taylon Green's a runner of the football.
Mm-hmm.
And in the SEC, you better be able to throw the football. You had better be able to throw the football. And if you look at his run at Boise, he didn't throw the football a whole lot this year. I think you are going to have to really develop Taylon Green as a thrower. And in my opinion, that's not going to happen overnight. Not in the SEC, friends. I think it is.
Oh, we saw it with, Buddy at Alabama, right? Milroe.
Jalen Milroe.
I mean,
yeah.
He was a very average thrower of the football.
But wasn't he always gifted, though? He always gifted?
Gifted physically, yes, but mentally, there's no way to know. I mean, there's really no way to measure, just how far you can take it mentally with a quarterback. I mean, again, there's no way to know if, this guy's, if this guy's going to live up to, what Jefferson was or what, any of these other, workhorse quarterbacks in the SEC are. I mean, you have to have a guy in the SEC. If you're going to play SEC football, you damn well better be able to throw it around the field. Running around in the SEC means you're going to play 4 or 5 games, and that's about it.